Alright, what's up guys? It's me, Tim, again. Just back here. What I got today for this video is some rebooking of WrestleManias 1 through, I believe I have 9 here, 9 or 10, something like that. Rebooking of WrestleManias using the same talent for every card, the same guys that were on each card, just shuffling them around a little bit, not bringing in people that you wouldn't have seen in the Federation at times, or even a year before or after. No fantasy booking, anything like that. Just a straight up rebooking of the cards themselves, WrestleMania, to maybe get some more interesting matchups or some more different main events. I know everybody craps on WrestleMania 2's main event. I know Vince and the boys got a lot of heat for having Mr. T headline WrestleMania 1, the biggest, wrestling event of all time, when they could have had another one of the boys in there. Mr. T was just a celebrity, and stuff like that. Some people are upset at how the tournament worked out in WrestleMania 4. So maybe get some of my views on all those things and things they could have done. Hindsight being 20/20, Monday morning quarterback type, reviews of these cards and these pay-per-views. All right, so let's start up with WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 1, I would have opened WrestleMania 1 the exact way that Vince McMahon booked it back in 1985. You have Tito Santana going over the Executioner. Tito Santana is a solid hand, always was a solid hand, and great curtain jerker. Great way to open up, get the crowd going and stuff like that. In match 2, I got Ricky Steamboat and Matt Bourne. Let's bump them up the card a little bit. They were on the third match in real life in WrestleMania 1. Ricky Steamboat still going over Matt Bourne. Ricky Steamboat, I think, had only been in the company for like a couple of weeks or something like that, months, when WrestleMania 1 happened. So he was like a rookie in the company at the time, which is funny. But let's keep him going with Matt Bourne. All right, and then in the third match, here's my controversial thing. My third match, I got Paul Orndorf, Mr. Wonderful, who would, in reality, have main evented this card. I got Paul Orndorf going over S.D. Jones. And why would you say that? Paul Orndorf, you'd want to keep strong, maybe, still. You still have him as a heel here. Maybe you still have him associating with Orton and Piper around this same time. But having him pick up a victory here, maybe even have him do the real quick squash match, and maybe not like King Kong Bundy would do to S.D. Jones in reality, where he beats him in like 25 seconds or whatever. But you have Paul Orndorf go out there, hammer the crap out of him, pile drive him, boom, maybe he wins in like a minute 30 or 2 minutes or something like that. Keep him looking strong, keep him, looking good, because we're going to need him, maybe more down the line for more main events and house shows and stuff like that. In the fourth match now, here's another change. Big John Studd and David Sammartino going to a double DQ. Now in reality, Brutus Beefcake and David Sammartino do the double DQ here at this pay-per-view. But in my world, I think you could have booked Big John Studd and David Sammartino as this David versus Goliath thing. I know in reality they gave David Sammartino this match and this payoff and this spot as sort of a favor to Bruno, because Bruno would never really get a big payoff from WrestleMania except for being in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2, I guess. But yeah, so maybe you build a Big John Studd versus David Sammartino. Again, Sammartino was a small little guy. Studd was obviously a giant. And again, you'll see in my main event here why we wouldn't have needed John Studd versus Andre the Giant, which, we had in reality here. But then maybe they're fighting and, you can get managers involved and Bruno involved, and there's a big brouhaha and a scuffle, and that's your double DQ. In my next match, I got Junkyard Dog. Here's another change, winning the Intercontinental title from Greg the Hammer Valentine. In reality, Junkyard Dog wins this match against Valentine. It's for the title, but he wins it by countout, so obviously he doesn't get the title. Here I would have Junkyard Dog winning and winning the title. Give Junkyard Dog a little run with the belt, even if it was just for the house shows, even if he just held it for a couple of months and maybe even lost it to somebody else before SummerSlam of that year, whatever. Let Junkyard Dog have his little bit again, because he never got any titles at all in the WWE. So that would have been a nicer run maybe for him. Another controversial thing in my next match, I got the U.S. Express winning the tag titles match and keeping their titles against Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff. We would know again in reality, Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkoff, they use the cane from Freddie Blassie, and they cheat and they win the titles here. But they lost them in a couple of months anyway. They lost them before the next pay-per-view, I guess. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense. They didn't really need that. They didn't really need to do that change. Let's keep the belts on the U.S. Express for a little bit. I think in reality they dropped it maybe because they were leaving the company or something. But this just be in fantasy booking. And again, I know WWE didn't really have a lot of it where it was all face champions or all heel champions, And if we have Junkyard Dog winning the Intercontinental title and the U.S. Express winning, they're keeping the tag belts with Hulk still on top as the world champ. Maybe that wouldn't have worked, but here, that's just what I'm saying. All right, so my third to last match now, still got Mr. T. Instead of involving Mr. T in the main event, and again, in my lead up to this too, I would have had Hogan and Mr. T still doing their thing. Have Hogan, talking about how Mr. T was the big part, him and Rocky, they were together, and how the Rock and Wrestling connection, and WWE's moving in with Hollywood and TV and movies and stuff. So you'd still have Hogan and him doing Saturday Night Live and the Belzer show and all that other stuff. Still have Hogan and Mr. T together and doing, TV spotlights and him on maybe, Saturday nights or whatever. But here you give Mr. T his own match against Bob Orton Jr. That's what I got. Bob Orton Jr. was known as a great hand, somebody that was great in the ring, somebody that could be very trusted and stuff like that. So put Bob Orton in a match against Mr. T and let them just do their thing. Orton can flip-flop and fly all over the ring, make him look like $1 million. Wouldn't have to be a 15 or 20-minute match. And you have Mr. T go over him. And maybe you have Snuka in Mr. T's corner being like his trainer or something like that. And maybe you get some kind of deal where Hogan and Piper are still involved in, coming out and brawling or involving them with each other, something like that. But I think that could have worked out, and I'll show you why here again in my main event. Second to last match, I got Wendi Ricter defeating Lelani Kai for the title. That's still the same thing that they, in reality they did it. Let's keep it the same. Wendi Ricter, Lelani Kai was the champion with Moolah in her corner. Wendi gets the win here, wins the belt back. She's got Cyndi Lauper, Rock and Wrestling. Let's keep it that way. Now, here's my main event though for WrestleMania 1. The boys have apparently, poo-pooed. Hey, why is this guy, Mr. T, getting the main event? This big thing. I've been paying my dues for 20 years. This guy this is his first match on, ever. He's gonna be working the main event of the biggest pay-per-view of all time. How about instead? Again, we used John Studd for something else. Maybe him and Andre had a little feud ahead of time, but have the blow off beforehand. Here, have Hulk and Andre be the tag team. And that's going to prelude next year's main event as well. Have Hulk and Andre be that mega event tag team against Roddy Piper. And now again, we used Orndorf in the beginning, went over strong still, and squashed SD Jones. We used Orton because still in the feud, you can have Mr. T and Snuka and Hogan and Andre all still involved. They all could have been doing that promotional stuff, that NBC stuff. They had the cartoon going, have all those guys still be together. So Mr. T already did his part of the feud with battling Orton in the third to last match. Here you have Hogan and Andre battling Roddy Piper, but who does he bring in as his tag team partner? King Kong Bundy. And why? Again, we'll use Bundy again next year. They brought Bundy in as the main event for WrestleMania 2, and it didn't really work out. It still looked at as one of the least appealing main events in WrestleMania history. But here you got Piper can be his mouthpiece. You could have bring in more Heenan stuff and Heenan and preluding with Andre and because Heenan was Bundy's manager, I guess, right? Bring in even other managers and stuff like that too into the feud. That was always good to have manager mouthpieces battling with these guys. But you got Hogan and Andre, the two giant mega forces, and you got Piper and Bundy. and maybe they have their match back and forth. You get a little bit of that Andre versus Bundy. You get a little bit of that Hogan versus Bundy, and which we would see again the following year anyway in reality. And again, you don't have to have Piper go over. Maybe you have Hogan pins Bundy. That's the final of the main event of WrestleMania 1. So there we go. Everything's still sort of tied around with what it was. But, maybe that's more of an exciting main event. Maybe we use Orton and Mr. T and they get a better match out of each other. Maybe because of how good of a hand is. Maybe Hulk and Andre is that big draw. Again, hey, we got Mr. T in our corner here, but he's doing his own thing in his own match. And me and Andre, brother, we're the biggest, baddest dudes, faces of the company. And we're going to battle that loudmouth Roddy Piper. And he can go get the biggest, nastiest, baddest heel he could find. And again, maybe Stud wouldn't have been the right call there because Stud wasn't maybe as good of a worker. Maybe he was, wouldn't really be on his way out. But Stud wasn't too much long for the wrestling world after that. He was, sort of getting beat up in his body, I guess, and maybe his disease. And then Stud never main evented Mania anyway. So this way you give Bundy still that rub as being a main eventer guy that they could use down the line. And, still have the tag match win with the big, crazy main event tag match. So that's just my rebooking of WrestleMania 1. Now I want to do WrestleMania 2 if I can. Same thing. Now, WrestleMania 2 obviously took place in the three different venues and stuff like that. If we're gonna redo that, I even still have results for each different venue. So let's see what we got here. I'm just pulling up the results here. Okay, so WrestleMania 2 in my New York section, Coliseum. It's right down the road here from me, the Nassau Coliseum, I guess. I got Magnificent Muraco going over Corporal Kirchner. Now, we would, in reality, see Corporal Kirchner down the line famously have the flag match with Nikolai Volkoff, which people still talk about. But that was only a 2-minute match. Instead of using Kirchner there for nothing, and yeah, cool gimmicky match against the evil Russian Nikolai Volkoff, maybe him and Muraco, even if he jobs to Muraco here, maybe they could have had a better match. Maybe we could have seen something else, seen a better performance out of Kirchner. Okay, now I got Paul Orndorf again, going over strong again against Hercules. Two big guys, muscle guys, body guys. They did that a lot back then. You'll see Hercules versus Warrior in another Mania. You'd always see Bulldog versus Warlord, stuff like that. Bulldog versus the Barbarian. They loved having those big, jacked up muscle dudes around. And again, you still got Orndorf going over strong against a bigger dude now this year. Now, I know I kind of put Orndorf in the back seat a little bit with all these, but Orndorf originally in reality just had a double count out with Muraco. So this is a better draw for him if he were to go over strong like that, especially against a big dude like Hercules. I still have Randy Savage going over George the Animal Steel for the Intercontinental title. Again, that also happened in New York. Same thing. I mean, that was only a 5-minute match. It didn't need to be anything more than that. We could still keep it what it is. Now, for my main event of WrestleMania 2 for New York, this is where you're going to think it gets a little crazy. In reality, we had Mr. T fighting Roddy Piper in the boxing match. Again, that not a lot of people are into. Wasn't really a great match. Piper sort of starts shooting at the end and really starts trying to hurt Mr. T. Throws a stool at him pretty hard. Here I have Mr. T, and again in this classic tag team WrestleMania main event superpower-y type fashion, Mr. T now tag teaming with King Kong Bundy, who has face turned in between WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2. Now King Kong Bundy, after let's say losing with Piper in the main event in WrestleMania 1, they have a very rare, or they start some kind of weird heel versus heel feud. Bundy ends up turning on him, turns face, and now you got Mr. T teaming up with King Kong Bundy. So you got again, Mr. T was kind of a smaller guy, Bundy's the big guy. Mr. T can work a little bit better now because he's had some more experience, and Bundy can still do maybe a little bit more of the heavy lifting. And they're against Roddy Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton. Now, Cowboy Bob Orton had worked with T previously in my fantasy booking of WrestleMania 1, so they're familiar with each other. Again, Piper and Bundy are familiar with each other. That's a throwback to WrestleMania 1 there. They could have built that feud. That could have been the feud leading up to WrestleMania 2 for Piper, was that with Mr. T still, like they did, you know, and again, the NBC television movie stuff, but have Bundy maybe be his partner. For the Rosemont section now of WrestleMania, I still got, now this, I moved Jake Roberts over George Wells to this venue now. Still the same results, still it's what they did there. George Wells is an ex-football player, I guess, or something like that. And Roberts was young in the company. Make him look strong, put him over. I got Moolah over McIntyre for the WWF Women's Championship. That's what happened in reality. Again, they did 1:25 for that match. Maybe have them go on a little longer. Maybe that's the only thing I'd change up, but still have Moolah and McIntyre over McIntyre for the women's title. I got the WWF/NFL Battle Royal here, but instead of having Andre the Giant win, again, Andre, we saw main event the previous WrestleMania, and you'll see him where he's at in the main event with this one. But instead, I got William Perry winning the WrestleMania Battle Royal. Have William Perry go over. Have Big John Studd be the last guy in the ring with him. You know, in reality, it was Andre and the Hart Foundation. Andre ends up getting rid of both Hart Foundation, and he's the monster. Andre always wins the Battle Royal. He goes over, he wins. That's his big WrestleMania moment. Instead, have this come down to William Refrigerator Perry and Big John Studd. Again, you had him in WrestleMania 1. Instead of doing the big Andre feud with him, I had him with David Sammartino. Maybe in between WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2, maybe you had him do more of the Andre stuff. Maybe this leads up to him, you know, being like, no, I'm going to be the guy that wins this Battle Royal. I'm going to show you I'm the true giant, not Andre. And if they were smart about it, maybe they could have, I don't know if they could have got, you know, another match somewhere out of William Perry versus Big John Studd, you know, in a one-on-one match. Who knows? That could have worked out. And then for the main event for Rosemont, same thing. I got Bulldogs going over Dream Team. That's what they did in real life. That's how I would still do it. Bulldogs win the title. You know, Ozzy Osbourne's there. You know, that's a pretty cool deal. We'll keep that the main event there. Now for the LA section. Again, this was where, in reality, Hogan and Bundy in a cage, people still kind of poo-poo on. I got Ricky Steamboat now. In reality, he was against Hercules here, and they did a 7.5 minute match. And I had moved Hercules to losing to Paul Orndorf in the New York section. Have Ricky Steamboat against Nikolai Volkoff. Again, you still got that high flyer guy versus the power guy, which is sort of what they were, I guess, working with here. And again, you put Ricky over. That would make him 2-0 in WrestleMania here. You know, he went over Matt Bourne in the first one. And now you have Ricky in the opener here going over Nikolai Volkoff. Maybe they would have done more than 2 minutes. And again, it makes everybody look bigger. Or better, I mean. In this, I got Junkyard Dog defeating Adrian Adonis. Now, in reality, we had Adrian Adonis with Jimmy Hart defeats Uncle Elmer. They do a 3-minute match. You know, if you're going to do a quick, you know, sort of job out match like that, and maybe, you know, maybe you have, again, Junkyard Dog won the Intercontinental title at the previous year's WrestleMania in my fantasy book in here. Maybe, again, you know, he's not the champion anymore, but he gets a nice, maybe 5-minute match against Adonis. They could have worked some feud, I imagine, working up to it. Adonis was the flamboyant guy at the time, and Junkyard was the rough and tumble, gravelly guy, you know, the down home and dirty guy. They could have worked something like that. Okay, in my second to last match here, I got Hoss and Terry Funk defeating Uncle Elmer and Tito Santana. Now, I sort of switched that around. Instead of Elmer and Adonis in one-on-one, I had JYD and Adonis. And instead of Junkyard and Tito as a tag team here, I had Uncle Elmer and Tito. Maybe you start that feud as Hoss and Terry Funk picking on Uncle Elmer for being a country boy, or they're cowboys and a country boy. I don't know. And Tito, being the hand that he is, sticks up for him, and you know, maybe they do Tito and Terry matches on a house show leading up to it. You know, and how crazy would that have been? Terry Funk versus, you know, Tito Santana one-on-one. But here, and even in the tag, you could have the 2 guys in the ring, or you get Dory Funk. Yeah, because Haas Funk was Dory Funk. Yeah, Haas Funk was Dory Funk. You got Dory Funk versus Tito, maybe. And again, maybe you don't have Uncle Elmer in that match a lot. And then you still have the Funk Brothers going over. Funk Brothers get their WrestleMania moment and look good. Now, my main event here, I got Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant in a cage match for the heavyweight title. You might think that's a little crazy. You might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, whoa. You're booking this match a year ahead of time? Think about it. If you did WrestleMania 1, like I was talking about in my hindsight 2020, you got Hogan and Andre as a team in the main event at WrestleMania 1. You do that split in between WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2. Now WrestleMania 2, your main event is Hogan versus Andre. You could do matches where they were, you know, there was interference. They were doing tag matches on the house shows leading up to this, and there was always interference by, you know, maybe he's got Heenan with him already. Maybe he's got DiBiase helping him out. Maybe he's got, you know, Piper, and, you know, maybe DiBiase's paying Piper and his guys, Bundy and Orton, and, you know, whatever. But instead of Hogan and Andre, or Hogan and Bundy in a cage for the title, you have Hogan and Andre a year ahead of time. You know what business it did for WrestleMania 3. Maybe they do that, the same thing. They have this big, you know, maybe they do the same almost exact feud just a year earlier. Have them have WrestleMania 1. The hands get raised at WrestleMania 1, and then those wheels start going for Andre about how he should be the champion, not Hogan. Boom, and then you have the cross and the shirt ripping, and, you know, and do all of that and have that build up to WrestleMania 2. And then you don't have, you know, then you have WrestleMania 3's main event, you know, that you can save, and you have that big giant one for 2, and you lose the, you know, that was Hogan versus Bundy. You know, even though that was a good setup still, and the ribs and the taped up thing, and his ribs are broken, and it's a big, huge guy, and you can't slam him, and you got to climb the cage, and there's all that. And Andre's definitely not ever climbing the cage, which would be a funny thing too. But maybe they do something where Andre, Andre rips the door off, or Andre knocks the lock off just with his hands, you know, or so, you know, some spot like that. I don't know, some monster spot with the cage. But that's my rebooking of WrestleMania 1 and 2, and I'm going to do more of these. I got, like I said, I think I got up to 9 or 10, and we'll go from there. This is already almost 25 minutes, so I won't make it too long. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. Leave your comments below. Tell me what else you think I'm crazy about, or I'm wrong about, or what else you could have done with the same amount of talent. Again, not making guys that are in, you know, just taking the same cast of characters from that year and just switching them around to try to make your best matches. That's what I'm trying to do here. So we'll do some more of these later. Take care.